Hello, mi amigos. It is Wednesday. I have to change it up now because Chad always gives me a hard time about saying, hey guys, but it's no hey guys tonight. It's welcome to Dentists in the Know. This is your backstage pass for current trends, politics, and education in the dental world. It is live and it is over tonight, a glass of rosé. There's some beautiful bourbon that's going to be shared on tonight's show. I could already see. But we are here to do a job. And that job, I'm sure you all know what it is. I'm here to do that job with three of my favorite people in the entire world, Dr. Chad Duplantis, Dr. Jennifer Bell, and myself. Anyway, we are all educators, we are all dentists, and we are all business owners. And our job is to bring all of you in the know. That was the third person. Oh, I see you got your ear pods in, Chad.
Yeah, he's got his AirPods in.
Hello?
Can you hear me? I'm just making sure these ear pods aren't working very well.
Yeah. What are you using now? I got talked into these ear pods, guys, because you guys kept saying that it was me that was causing the reverb.
I will say the last two episodes, no echo.
Yeah. But you're not digging this. Do I need to paint it face color?
I find a Sharpie in the right ear, and the other one is just a Pentel gel ink pen. It works very well.
The combination.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I can even sign my name with it.
Okay. Well, now we've lost everyone.
Yeah, now we've lost everyone. Good job, Chad.
Way to go, Chad.
And you probably punctured an eardrum in the process.
Probably.
Yeah.
That wouldn't
this
be
is
the
not
first
medical
time.
advice.
Would not be the first time.
Yeah, today you're talking about, or yesterday about protecting your vision. Now today you're busting up eardrums.
Yeah. What's up with that?
Yeah. You're just looking for material, is what it is.
That's a possibility. It's a possibility.
Yeah. How's it going, guys?
It's going good. How's it going with you all?
Yeah,
guys, can I tell y'all something?
Yeah,
Nope.
Tell me.
Wow. Okay.
Go ahead.
You know, our job is gross, right? Like there are things that happen from time to time and you're like, well, my job is kind of gross, right? I'm sure as I say that, you think about a moment that you've had in your practice where you maybe even got a little like nauseous from an odor or a sight. Or when you think back, you're like, that was really some of the grossest things that have ever happened. But in less than 5 days, I now have experienced two of the grossest things that have really happened in practice for me. And they were within days of each other. And I've been trucking along all this time for 15 years. And now all of a sudden I'm hitting this like precipice of grossness. Today,
okay. All I'm getting is a word salad here. I want to hear it. I want the deets.
It's the build up. This is the classic Instagram, like long-winded story, and you never actually hear the story. Today, did either of you use an isolate?
Yes.
Okay, or a dry shield or something.
Yeah.
So today I was removing an amalgam on an upper tooth. Patient started kind of choking a little bit, so we took it. Classic. You take it out, you hose it all down, do whatever. The assistant goes back to put it back in, and sometimes the flap just slips out of their hand, and all of this amalgam goo that was stuck in the isolate flopped, and it landed square across my face and across Christian's arm. And I look over and I'm like covered in polka dots from all the amalgam, spludge, whatever that's on my face. And then it's all down his arm. And he looks at me and I look at him and I'm like, I guess I'm going to have to take a shower when I get home today because I'm wearing you on my face. And he busted out laughing. And anyway, the second incident happened late last week after the show. Patient came in complaining of a lot of pain in the upper, I know, right? Patient came in complaining in the upper right quadrant. He has these really shelfy tori, exostosis sitting off of the maxillary arch. And stuff gets stuck up there all the time because they're like those big shelves. And he's like, I don't know what happened, but something's stuck in here and it hurts so bad. I don't know if it's stuck in there, if I have an infection. Like, I don't know. I was eating Chex Mix last week and now like I've been a week later and it's still really hurting. So I'm like flushing, sailing up there, trying to get anything to move. I don't see anything. And then finally I like set him up and I was like, I don't know if we're ever gonna, like, I don't know what's wrong with you. I'm gonna put you on an antibiotic. And maybe it just got irritated. So I'm like thinking through it one more time. And I said, you know what? Let me just look one more time. So I take the mirror around the back side of number 2 just to kind of look behind the tori. And there's a white object stuck in there. So I grabbed the, now it feels like the game operation. You remember where you have to like narrowly slide your little tool in between. So I slide my little forceps up there and I'm like, oh, I think I got it. And the smell that came from the object that I removed penetrated the mask, penetrated the wallpaper. It was a peanut, guys. I sleuthed out a peanut that had been sitting up on top of that tori for a week.
Ooh, and that and a little bit of anaerobic bacteria. Yeah.
Delicious. So in just 4 days, I have had 2 of the grossest experiences of my whole career. And I've been doing this a while. Really?
Yeah. Well, you know, maybe you haven't been such a good girl.
Maybe.
That's all I can think
That's
of.
quite possible.
Yeah.
This is karma.
Maybe you had it. Like. Maybe you had it coming, JB. I'm just saying.
Tomorrow I'm going in with like a welder's shield and like just oh, no. How about you guys? How's your week going? Suit. Hopefully cleaner than mine.
My week's cleaner, but you know, since we're on the topic of gross,
I love gross.
You know what really just grosses me out is when somebody sits in your chair and they flip their shoes off and they've got their bare feet on the chair. That's just gross to me, man. You know,
it does happen.
Yeah, because it's never people with like nice feet. I don't like feet anyways, but it's never people with nice feet. It's always people with like the nastiest feet. You know, it's like, come on.
So in the big scheme of things, though, basically every patient we have spews all over our chairs, and you're worried about their foot?
Yeah.
Yeah, it just grosses me out. It just grosses me out.
That's his line, Jeff. It's just his line. You have to respect the line. You have to respect
it's
the line.
Not my
you
thing.
You have to respect it.
I get it.
You don't have to get it, but you have to respect it.
So just put the sign outside. Please silence your cell phones and keep your shoes on.
Yeah.
I even think you may add an F''N just for emphasis.
Keep your effing shoes on.
Did I say that?
Hey, you could.
No, I think you should.
Oh, okay. I was making sure I didn't drop the F-bomb.
Like if you don't put that in there, people won't pay attention. You got to do something for the emphasis.
Yeah, I don't care if you're wearing flip-flops, hey dudes, whatever. Just keep your damn shoes on.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So I had an interesting day today because one of my associates is no longer with me. Dr. Sarah Bach, her husband, decided to pursue his medical career a little further up north in Maryland. And so Dr. Bach had to leave, unfortunately, but that left me now in a practice where I ran 3 rooms of sleep, TMJ, and ortho, and then also had to check a hygienist and finish several of her cases that she wasn't able to finish before she left. And I told her I would take them on. So I was roller skate man today and then still had to be out in time to pick up my dad who had a cardiac cath done today. And I knew it was scheduled today and there was no way I could cancel everything that was going on. Ginny was around. My mom was around. I said, but I will get there to help get him back in the car and get him home and everything and just keep me posted throughout the day. But really, this is not as much about me as what happened to my dad today. So through this whole thing, you know, running these 5 crazy rooms and at one time and, you know, just wearing 10 different hats today, also kind of texting back and forth with my mom. How's he doing? Blah, blah, blah. In 1 hour. So I just thought about this, that in 1 hour, my father, he was wheeled in, and in 1 hour, somebody shoved something up through his wrist and basically put 2 stents in 2 different arteries that were clogged at 90. One was at 90%, one was at 85%. Then ran up through another artery, ballooned a third artery out, and made a life-changing procedure happen in 1 hour. And I mean, I got to my dad and it's like, the man's doing great. He's smiling. His color is amazing. He feels fantastic. I'm like, half of my patients don't leave my office feeling that good. That is the craziest thing. 1 hour that happened in. Am I the only one that is crazy to me?
No,
kudos to that doc. Yeah.
We were talking pre-show. We can't even do a crown that fast.
Right.
Right. And they don't leave happy or go eat.
Yeah.
They can't do any of those things.
No.
I do think our guest, David Rice, could do it in an hour.
Probably. But the rest of us are mediocrity at best.
Yeah.
And I think we've proven that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
I mean,
I could do it in 50 minutes. Okay.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
No one said your margins were close. It's fine. You make them look like top hat.
I mean, our other guest, it seems like it may take her an hour to get somebody numb.
So
that is really mean. And she's going to come on here and defend herself.
You don't do that while people are off screen.
Do that.
Yes,
you do, because they can't defend themselves.
Yeah, you're a bastard.
And they both know that I still love them. But you know what? It could take me an hour to get somebody numb on certain days. I'm telling you.
Some days.
And
I do think if we just didn't have to get them numb, I would be so productive.
That's just like pissing in my Cheerios. That's like the worst thing that could ever happen.
I know.
Chad, it takes you that long just to get just to tag the buzz before you start working.
True.
Yeah.
True.
Right.
True.
Right.
So speaking of the two great people that are going to be on our show, all of you know these two people. They've both been guests on the show. We're going to come back to them in just a minute. But Dr. Pam Maragliano-Muniz is with us. Dr. David Rice is with us. Two amazing clinicians, two amazing people. And they're just doing so much for our profession. So, and they're just great friends. So we're excited to chat it up with them, and we'll do that in just a few minutes. But first, JB, do you have some news?
I have so much today. I'm not gonna be fast, but I'm gonna cover a lot of ground, people. Are we ready? Buckle up.
Ready.
Buckle up. Let's go. So first off, last week we talked about the young boy who had the incident in the back of his throat with his toothbrush, right? And that ended up in a seizure stroke that put him into the hospital. Well, fast forward another week, we have a story of a 12-year-old boy who had his orthodontic wire that somehow made its way through the oral cavity, up through the foraminal valley, and into the temporal space, creating a hemorrhaging spot. He had like absent seizures going on. He was nauseous and a little disoriented for a couple of days. His parents took him to the hospital. Here's the other crazy part of the story. He started only speaking in Spanish. So his first language is English, and maybe he happens to know Spanish as a second language, but that's the only language he started speaking, which I thought, how cool is the brain? You know, you kind of mess around with the wiring a little bit, and all of a sudden they become a fluent Spanish speaker. Anyway, wire was removed, boy was saved, all was well. But it is the first documented case of an orthodontic wire making its way through the foraminal valley and into the temporal lobe. I don't know if there's a PSA there because it does seem like a bit of a freak incident, but just thought you should know about it. Another interesting story for the week, there was a recall on a bone grafting material. It was from Zio, A-Z-I-Y-O. They make a bone grafting material that was sent to 13 different hospitals and dental offices across multiple states. There was a tuberculosis outbreak that came from the graft. 5 patients have become ill from the tuberculosis bacterium, and they are recalling that graft, and they're calling all patients that had received it to go through testing for TB and treatment. if warranted, even if they're not showing symptoms. So if you do use a Zio bone grafting material, then maybe you should follow up on the recall and reach out to your patients. The FDA and the CDC are both involved now in the recall. All right, so moving on. This is super interesting because I love the direction of this particular news story. California just passed a law that requires or is trying to ensure that insurers will provide more clarity around whether or not the plan is a state plan or a federal plan. Why is this important? Well, let's go back into the news box for a minute, back about a year ago, where we were talking about the nuances of whether or not states had to adhere to the laws of the federal part of a dental plan or if they could follow the state laws. Why is that important? Because in 39 states, there is a law in the books that states that dentists can not honor write-offs and charge appropriate fees for procedures if that service is not covered by the dental insurance company. If it's a federal plan, it falls under federal law, which means that the write-offs are required. So California passed this law to try to get more clarity around when they see a plan, how do they actually know whether or not this is a federal plan or a state plan? And I've been working on this in my own office, and I can tell you it's a real beast of an issue because it's not obvious who's actually insuring the plan and what jurisdiction it falls under. So then a dentist is left wondering, do I take the write-off? Am I not required to take the write-off? When does this become important? Your veneers and elective cases, when you are providing treatment that the patient probably should be paying in full for, the insurance company isn't going to cover it, but yet they still require you to take the write-off. In certain states, that's legal, that you do not have to take the write-off. And in other states, it's illegal if you do not take the write-off. And does it fall within the state or the federal jurisdiction? So I like the direction that California has gone with this. I think more states should look at the structure of that law and see if this shouldn't be applicable in other states, particularly ones that have the law already on the books that allows doctors to charge a usual and customary fee for things that are not covered by the insurance company, even if they are in network. So I really like that one. There are a lot of big changes. North Carolina has been in the news lately in several dental arenas. We have tended to be a more conservative dental licensure state. We're seeing a lot of movement in the contrary to that over the last couple of years. And there's a new opening up of the Dental Practice Act. And whenever that happens in North Carolina, it tends to raise an uproar. The last time we did it, we got into a legal battle with corporate dentistry, which cost millions of dollars and was a really kind of messy battle. Well, we're reopening it again and looking at a couple different things. Here are some interesting items in that new proposed law that I think could be a nice debate for another time. First, dental educators can come into the state and obtain licensure if they have 2,000 hours of clinical time. So that fast tracks them to a full state licensure. Other educators that do not have that particular amount of clinical time will be eligible for the instructor license, which will get them into a certain pipeline to be eligible for an NC license track. Another interesting piece of this is the mental health part. And we talked a little bit about this today on the Facebook group about a new requirement in North Carolina requiring a 1 hour of substance abuse or mental health awareness education every 2 years for your licensure. They are also starting to tie licensure around that. And they actually are pushing for the right to administer mental and well-being exams on individuals who are applying for dental licensure. There's a lot of uproar in that particular area. And the other area of if a dentist is being accused of a particular thing, and maybe it's wrapped around substance abuse and mental health awareness or mental health issues, and they are required to, right now they have to go before a judge, and a judge has to issue an evaluation. The state dental board is asking to pull that back in and administer or facilitate that. There's pros because it keeps it out of the court information. So maybe it will provide more privacy for the individual who may be actually suffering from a major issue that just needs help and has potential for rehabilitation. But the other concern is how powerful does the board become? And I think, we always have to, we have to be mindful about entities that are sort of doing these little grabs, good, bad, or indifferent. We just have to be at least open for discussion. In answer to your question for the educator, it was not specified in this particular article, but I'll see if I can find more clarity in that. I believe it would be a full-time educator with an institution. All right, just a few more things, guys. I promise it'll be quick. HPI, we talked a little bit about this last week, but let's consolidate some real statistics that I think even our guests tonight would really like to dig in a little bit more. Number one, overhead expenses for dental offices went up 7.7% year over year. And their revenue stream or reimbursement rates have only gone up 2.2%, creating a pretty significant gap in profitability for practices. And we have seen for the first time a decrease in income. So dentists reported a decrease somewhere in $20,000 to $40,000 range, like $240,000 to $210,000, somewhere in that ballpark. Year over year in decrease in salary, because ultimately that's where the profitability comes from. So I think that's a really interesting statistic. I think it's concerning on numerous levels that we could dive into and probably spend an entire show. And we sort of did that last week alone. But I do think it's something we need to be continually mindful of and watching those statistics coming out. All right, the last thing I will mention is there is a dentist dental hygiene compact. I've mentioned it a couple of times on the show prior. This originally came out of the Department of Defense and the American Dental Association to open portability, specifically at that time for spouses of individuals who were enlisted in the military services, because they often were reassigned pretty frequently, and the spouses that were licensed dental professionals had a difficult and expensive time getting relicensed as they moved around from state to state. So the compact was meant to be a more streamlined approach to get individuals who are affiliated with military individuals licensed quicker. But it sort of opened up this Portability Act to allow individuals to move within state to state a little bit easier to obtain their license and maybe reduce the overhead and expense. 7 states are required in order for the compact to be official. Right now, we have Iowa, Tennessee, and Washington. There are 3 other states that have it up for a vote. That's New Jersey, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Wisconsin is looking to bring it forth in the next year. And so if there are 7 states that sign on to this agreement, whether you agree with it or not, it will start to open up the portability licensure opportunities for dentists and dental hygienists to be able to move from state to state. I am sorry I went long this evening, but lots been happening over the last week, and I want to get it all to you. Thanks so much for your patience, and that's the news.
Riveting.
JB, so much.
Imagine consuming it all. I'm like making notes and I've been researching it all. And anyway,
you know what? The great thing is we have all week to really sort out some of these topics, so I love that. We have the forum for it, but we have 2 of our favorite people in the world on this show tonight. So would one of you care to do an introduction, or would you just want to bring them on?
I'll introduce them real quick. So first off, in no particular order, we have Dr. David Rice, who is the chief editor for DentistryIQ and the founder of IgniteDDS. A good friend of ours, met him about 1.5 to 2 years ago, and kind of grown the relationship from there. Our second guest is also chief editor, but for dental economics, Dr. Pamela Maragliano-Muniz. I don't know, I probably said it wrong, but she knows what I'm trying to say. She has batted at every single position within the dental office. And when she went through the lineup, she decided to go on for a pros degree. So we obviously have 2 very talented dental colleagues in our presence tonight. And without further ado, I'm going to bring on our good friends, David and Pam. Good to see you both tonight. Thank you for being here.
Hey, gang.
Thanks for having us.
We're not worthy. We're not worthy.
Hey, Pam,
No.
I think Chad mentioned you last because he was a little bit of a payback on your post. I'm not sure.
I know.
I did say it was in no particular order, you know. I mean, yeah.
He's like, I'm going to do it in order of those that can actually get a block. And
Yeah.
and you're last.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah, yeah. And Pam, you know, all kidding aside, we've all been there. And you know, that's like one of the worst. That's like one of the worst days when you just can't get them numb.
When you're handed lemons, you make lemonade. So even though it is August, I practice in Salem. So I set up my skeleton in my waiting room, gearing up for Halloween. So
Here
you
we
know
go.
what? It is what it is.
Well,
But
it's
do you feel your
106
blood
freaking
pressure?
degrees here, so I don't think there's. I don't think we could get ready for Halloween.
But when you can't get someone numb, I just feel my blood pressure going up. I'm getting angrier and more frustrated and angrier and more frustrated. And it's not really their fault. And it's not really my fault. It's this crazy scientific experiment we're undergoing together to try to make this whole thing happen. And yet I cannot get my emotions sometimes in my own, like I have to walk out of the room. I'm like, we just need you to marinate for a few minutes, which really means I got to take 5.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I got to
But,
go
you
set up
know,
my skeleton.
Yeah,
It's the block that goes wrong, and it's the patient that comes in that you can't get their blood pressure down. What are you gonna do? You know, what are you gonna do?
So I just live by the whole Tom Viola. They come in with more exogenous epinephrine just by coming into your office. Don't worry about what you're injecting. So that's I just kept hearing Tom today as this whole thing was going south. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to start decorating for Halloween while my next shitty block isn't going to take. And I just sort of did the whole thing.
I love what Jennifer said, though. There is the most underutilized tool that we have in our shed is the 5-minute, I just got to go walk away. It's amazing how many procedures that have kind of gone south, or, you know, where I'm just struggling, whether it's a root tip or something's just not going right. They're not getting numb. And I don't know what happens during that 5 minutes, but sometimes that little bit of anesthetic kicks in, they get a little bit number. You get a little bit of perspective. You go in there, it's like a fresh set of eyes, it's a fresh attitude, and it's like all of a sudden the procedure gets better. Not always, but a lot of times it does. I think that's one of the most important things. We think we can't afford that 5 minutes, and I think that 5 minutes can sometimes buy us 20.
And the second 5 minutes, you're grabbing a pack of Marlboro Reds and you're lighting them some bitches up.
I'm going behind the 7-Eleven with a doobie.
Yeah.
5 minutes. I'm in the car and down the street. I'm gone.
Yeah. How close is the bar? I'm just asking.
Yeah. Sounds like the last conference we were at, David. Meet you at the bar in 15.
That wasn't us. There was other people we were observing, I feel like.
Yeah.
It was I think it was Pam. I mean, it was.
Yes, and I definitely sat there alone the whole time.
Yeah.
So,
saying.
guys, let's start here, because really, David and Pam, you've kind of come together and you're doing some really cool stuff together. And just fill us in there on kind of how you two started working together and some of the thought process and some of what's come out of that, like some of the things that you have planned.
Okay, you want me to start, David?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so I met David, I don't know, would you say 2015? Probably 2015-ish. So I'm doing an event at Yankee Dental with Anastasia, his now wife, and David's there. And I meet Anastasia. She's awesome. Never met her before. I had a little present for her. And then I meet David, her other half. And he hands me this business card. He's like, here's my card. Plunk. It was like the most beautiful card I've ever seen. It weighed like 3 pounds. It was like metal. I was like, holy mother of God, how much does this thing cost? Like, this guy, who is this guy? And he was just like the nicest person ever. And we became like fast friends. So cut to different dental shows, whatever. So happy to see Anastasia, thrilled to see David. And then finally he joins us. at dentistryIQ.com. And now we're like officially working together. And so that's been awesome. And then we had this opportunity to start a podcast, and like, who else would I want to do this thing with? It was just like, it's like my brother from another mother. I'm so happy.
That's
Wait,
awesome.
our moms are different though, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe.
The test is
I mean, I've heard
still out.
stories about my family. You never know.
Yeah,
That really sounded like a question more than you
did.
weren't very confident there, David.
Same dad though.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't even know. It's just so confusing. I think it was orphaned, a stork, maybe. There could have been a stork.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's awesome. We get to do, we're doing Dentistry Unmasked together now, which is phenomenal. We've, what are we, like a month and a half deep into it now, Pam?
Yeah, just about.
Yeah, we've had some killer episodes. It's been a ton of fun. I think I've had as much fun recording them as I've had like watching this whole thing happen. And I agree. Like I couldn't think of a better person to hang out with all the time and build something new with. So it's been a blast, and I'm learning a lot. It's a total, podcasting is a totally new thing for me. Videos upon videos, but podcasting brand new. So, you know, here I am being a student all over again, which is really fun.
I think, do you two have matching mics? Is that what I'm seeing here? Or
Maybe.
Our mics might have the same mother.
I was going to say that.
And father.
Looks like
It's a
D&D
boy.
match.
It's positioned a little differently. That's all.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it makes it up.
Subtle observation.
Our podcasters are very confused at this point.
Exactly.
They're like, what are we referencing?
So how long did you all spend working on this podcast idea before it kind of came to fruition?
Like a good 15, 20 minutes.
Like all good business plans.
It was a cocktail napkin, I think in LA. I'm not sure.
Wow. That's pretty impressive. And then just right to it and teeing it up and getting out there. And, you know, I love it.
We've had some help. We've got some really great behind the scenes people. You guys know Andrew Johnson, who's just fabulous, and you know Brittany, and shout out to both of them who've absolutely made this so much more smooth. This process has been incredible because of them. Really, I think it's kind of easy to sit in front of a microphone compared to what they have brought to the table for us.
So, do you have ear pods or pencils?
I mean, I do.
Ear pods or pencils?
Right now I have one of Anastasia's lip balms. I could go that route.
Yeah. You know,
she's going to kill me when she sees that.
I think I could just say that Jeff might be the only person with AirPods in right now. Is that safe?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Or well, JB could. See, she has the luxury of long hair.
Yeah. Oh, I'll be damned. There's no AirPods in there.
Virgin ears.
I'll be damned. That's interesting. I thought you had something hidden in those locks, JB.
Yeah.
You didn't.
You bitch.
Yeah. Just empty space. That's all there is.
So tell us what are the episodes that you've done? You've been at it. Did you say a month and a half? And then what's on the docket for down the road?
Yeah. What's your favorite been, Pam?
So my favorite thing about it is really the spirit of what this podcast is about, which is, just like when we all kind of got together, JB, we missed you. When we got together in LA, you go to conferences, you go see dentists, and you're kind of like doing your own thing. But like the real things, the real conversations that take place with a glass of wine in your hand, or, before at breakfast or during lunch or after hours, that kind of thing. And we want to have those real conversations. So, sometimes you see people and we all see it out there on social media, and some of it, is like total BS. And we're like, you know what? We want to, kind of keep it real and not really hide behind some of that stuff. So really there's no topic really off the table. And, we really feel like having those conversations is kind of something that needs to happen.
Yeah. What I like best is we have, it's not that we have two guests who come with competing opinions necessarily, but they come from different perspectives. And, and very much like hanging out with you guys, I think we get people comfortable enough so they can openly share how they feel. So we've had some professional, but I'm going to say spirited debate on maybe what's the right path. We did one on like, buy or build for new dentist. What should you do? And, you guys know, you get somebody who just does startups, and everybody needs to do a startup, and you get someone who's a broker and everybody's got to buy a practice. So, things like that are really fun when you put two of those folks in the room together and say, all right, let's just get the truth. Because ownership's a win, but maybe one path over another's kind of dependent on who's owning.
I love that.
So if you're going to get competing opinions, I certainly haven't had the cojones to do this, but I would love to get maybe some. I wouldn't want to mention any names, but some of these groups out there that are kind of in competition with one another, and maybe have one from one and one from the other. I've always wanted to just see what the beef was with that, but I think that would be really fun to do. So I'm just going to throw that out there as a suggestion for you down the road, and I can moderate with you if need be. But I'd love to see something like that.
Will you wear black and white stripes like a referee?
Yes, I will. I will totally. I'll have a whistle too.
Can you grow a mustache really quick too? I feel like you should have a mustache.
Actually, Chad grows hair really quickly. I'm just going to throw that out there.
And I'm just going to leave it right there where you want it.
Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I'll be back next week with a full beard.
Have you seen that man's back?
Dennis Facebook group.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of which, I think it brings up an important topic when you talk about having differing opinions. Did any of you all, I don't think Jeff and Jennifer did, I think I sent them the link, but did any of you all see the interview a couple of weeks ago with the dentist from Texas? And then where's the other guy from? Is it Spain?
He's in Massachusetts now.
Yeah.
But
originally, yeah.
Yes.
Originally from Spain. I think conversations like that can be extremely productive. I'm not sure that came across in the manner that it was intended. I don't know. Maybe it did. Maybe it didn't. But that was a really interesting one, to say the least.
I think it was interesting. I think that one could have definitely benefited from a moderator.
Of course.
I think that would have been probably the way to go there. And, I don't know. I think having patience there, was a little tough, certainly made it interesting for those of us with our popcorn, but not necessarily the most productive conversation, but sure was interesting to watch.
Well, would you all ever be prepared to moderate something like that?
I'm a middle child. I've done a lot of moderating in my whole life. I'm born for that. So
I thought the middle child was the troublemaker, though.
No, are you kidding me?
She's only the troublemaker if the third doesn't come along or the next one doesn't come along.
She's just the one that the parents don't like so much.
Oh my, that's facts right there.
Yeah. I mean, she's the one that the parents don't like so much,
Yeah.
Well,
and I'm not even going to say it. Anyway.
What I could say about, just as a capstone on what we just talked about, number one, I genuinely appreciate bringing spirited debate back into the American culture, because I think we have lost the art of actually having an educated debate and discussion of ideas and experiences without getting upset or it becoming a very emotional response. And the other thing is on social in particular, it's very easy to be this keyboard warrior of exclamation point. That's the opinion, and think that should hold all the weight in the world. And yet, and what I do genuinely fear is that inexperienced observers would see these and not have the educated counterpoint, and then go and actually execute the thing that may be or may not be a great idea. So I really appreciate an opportunity for a listener to hear both sides of a story, make an educated decision about how they want to pursue something based on what resonated most, and there's no right or wrong. It's just expressing all of those viewpoints. I actually really appreciate that being kind of brought back into our profession. And I feel like we've lost that to some extent.
There's a difference between a debate and an agenda. And I think that, you know, what I was referring to before, it's almost if there was an agenda that was understood by the invitor versus the invited to the program. But I totally agree with you, JB, and I love what you all are doing. Now let me ask you this. So I listened to one last week that I absolutely loved, and you had Abdullah and you had Sunny and you had several other people on there, these people with these great Instagram followings and stuff like that. But what I found so interesting versus, you know, what's different than what we do is that here I am, you know, driving in the car and listening to this, and there's no video to it. And so I'm assuming that none of those people really, they were interviewed separately. They didn't really have much interaction with each other during that episode. And you know, it was all very spirited, all very, you know, an amazing conversation. But I would have loved to have seen everybody on the same stage, kind of going back and forth with one another, you know. And I think that's harder to do. You all did a fantastic job, but it's harder to do when you don't have the face to face, or, you know, you're just going off of voices. But it was wonderful, and I'm excited to hear more. So,
you know, the fascinating thing about that episode for me was they were four very different people, different ages, you know, different approaches, but they all shared one common thing, and that was, you've got to do this because you genuinely love to do it, and you've got to genuinely be yourself. And when you bring yourself and you love it, you'll learn, you'll evolve. And I found that fascinating, because I think it's easy to your point, Chad, it's easy for us to come in with an agenda and say, like, oh, this quote influencer who's got, you know, 80,000 followers doesn't know a lick about dentistry. Yeah, but they know a lot about some things that really matter too. They just might be different things than I value or somebody else values. So maybe SmileCon's a really good place to start putting people on stage with that live debate, and you could bring that referee costume. I'm just saying.
Oh, yeah.
I could do it. Yeah, I could do it. I could totally swing it. Now with the referee top, do you want assless chaps or do you want just full on black pants?
Ooh.
Biker shorts.
With
With big
short
tube
shorts.
socks.
I'm just going back to the hair thing again. So yeah,
Hey, Jeff.
I'm going with the black pants.
We're
So,
officially warned.
Let's go with some 1980s coaching shorts, you know, like the spandex roughly with the two buttons at top. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
1980s turquoise blue parachute pants with handcuff belt.
Panadora.
Yeah.
Panadora.
Sounds like outfit changes are going to be happening here.
Yeah. We're gonna
This is going to be more exciting than a Taylor Swift concert. All the changes.
Yeah.
So one thing I want to piggyback on here is, and I'm curious what all of your opinions are, because honestly, both Pam and David, I don't know how much you have been involved with organized dentistry. That's where I happened to meet Jennifer, was through the AGD. She was, I believe, vice president of North Carolina the year I was president in South Carolina. We had worked in the House of Delegates for a long time. And that was probably one of the best learning experiences of my life, because we would go into these caucus events, and you would think a bunch of dentists would kind of all think the same way, but we would go in there and we would have some pretty damn spirited debate. And it's amazing how many times, as much as Jennifer and I think alike, how many times we even got into some things where, you know, Jennifer would be on one side, I'd be on the other. It was always respectful. It was always something that made you walk out and think, you know what, maybe I don't have this all right. Maybe there is some other perspective. And so what I would challenge for a lot of younger dentists to do is to find outlets like that where you can have respectful debate, and where you can share opinions and concerns, and still, be able to really, to have that paradigm shift where you can actually say, okay, I understand your point of view, because the environment that most younger dentists have grown up in is so polarized, right? Social media has just been so polarized, and I think we need to offer more outlets to dentists to kind of find those forums where you can express opinion respectfully, and be able to collaborate to form decision making processes.
I totally agree with that, but you mentioned something, but dentistry can be rather polarizing too, you know?
Of course it can.
Yeah, it to an unfortunate extent, and I think, it takes people, like us to kind of hopefully keep it somewhat grounded. But I mean, even within the schools of thought, within the specialties, it's extremely polarizing
Even
as to
more
what's
so
going on
in specialties.
in specialties, and
Yeah.
even in between, I'm just going to throw some out there, but Coyce, Pankey, Dawson, Spear, LVI, all of those, there are some very polarizing opinions. And I mean, gosh, you throw TMJ into the mix and an
Or Rubber
occlusion.
Dam.
Yeah.
Get it.
It can be really, really polarizing, and it's tough for some people to find their common ground. So maybe to hear both sides, people can,
But I guess my point there is that as great as everything that all of us are doing, it's those in-person experiences where you get to meet people, because regardless of how many times I've read you, Pam, or I've seen you, David, and it didn't matter. It wasn't until that I actually sat with you and listened to you person to person, had conversation with you, that I could develop a real respect, that I could say, you know what? I don't care what this guy says or what this gal says. There's some deep thought behind it. So I better at least be considering what they're saying as a viable option. And it changes the dynamic. It goes back to what Jennifer said about hiding behind a screen name and just being able to type in all capitals or exclamation points. There's such, when you have to deal with people person to person, I just think it opens up a whole new level of communication.
Agree.
And when you say that, speaking of which, what better places to meet person to person, to share ideas, to debate ideas than a conference? And I believe there's one coming up in October that maybe Pam could tell us a little bit about.
Oh my gosh. Yes. We have the Dental Economics Principles of Practice Management Conference coming up in Las Vegas on October 13th and 14th.
Is that PPM?
That is, yes, PPM,
Okay.
specifically for Principles of Practice Management.
Okay.
That's what
All
I was
right.
thinking.
So, and you got a great lineup of speakers. I'm gonna share the lineup here real quick, because I think it's pretty awesome.
There's some of the best business minds in dentistry, and I know each of them, and they're just really incredible speakers. They all have differing ideas and different approaches to doing things. But gosh, I feel like we all love our patients. We love our teams. We love our practices, hopefully. And, we love our careers. But at some point, we have to prepare for the future. And figuring out what that looks like, whether it's selling your practice or saving for the future or tax savings, or maybe you consider partnering with the DSO, or maybe you just need to increase your own profitability so that maybe, these things are actually going to become a reality down the road. And so that was really what the purpose of this conference was about, was helping dentists get ready for whatever their goals are. And so I brought a diverse crew in that was going to provide education. It's a great day and a half, and it's in Vegas. So, I mean, what could go wrong there?
What could go
What
wrong
would
A
there?
mattress on a roof.
Yeah. I don't even get to participate in this conversation.
No. The list that could go wrong is just too long.
Did the real
Yeah.
Caesar live in this venue? I just
Oh.
want to know.
Yeah.
Good question. Et tu, Brute?
That is a good question.
By the way, I think that you need to in every attendee's gift packet, you need to let them know that henna tattoos do not come off within days.
At the little kiosk downstairs.
No, it doesn't matter where. Henna tattoos, just so you know, henna tattoos will not come off before you go back to work on Monday.
Hey,
Just
Jeff,
saying.
for those of us that don't know exactly what you're referring to, would you potentially post a picture in the comments this evening or
I
tomorrow?
will. I will, because
Yeah.
I think that could be my Friday fail this week. That was
Oh,
because
that's a great one.
that
Yeah.
actually happened on a Friday.
Yeah.
Is it Mike Tyson-esque?
Yes,
is.
it was.
I
It
love
was.
Yeah,
And I was told it would be off by the time I saw
By Monday.
patients on Monday.
Oh my
Live.
gosh.
Yeah.
Well,
It
another
was-
thing about Vegas is weddings are actually real weddings. Like, they're not a joke. I got married
No.
there.
Really?
Yeah.
I did.
Come to
Will
PPM.
that
and
be
get
a
married.
part of the course curriculum? Like, are weddings optimal or not optimal? Maybe
Yeah,
we could dive
no.
into that.
No,
Could we find somebody there to get married, possibly?
I mean, anything can happen. Anything
always
can
be
happen.
there.
Yes.
All right.
All right.
All right.
This is my promise. I'm getting ordained before that meeting.
I don't think you have to be in
No.
Vegas.
I think, Jeff, if we're going to do it in Vegas, we got to get Elvis to perform the ceremony for somebody.
We did it. We got
Okay.
married at the Little White Chapel.
Fair enough.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
I
Did you
married Rich
really?
twice. I did. Yeah. We got married twice. We were like at a conference in Vegas and we didn't have really anything to do. So we were at dinner with GC and they were like, "What are you guys going to do tonight?" And I was like, "I don't know. We were thinking of getting married." And they were like, "Can we come?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure. No problem." So
That's
I
phenomenal.
carried a tube of MI paste down the aisle. I had nothing to carry. So that was like my something borrowed and my bouquet. And I always say my buddy Brian Novi is one of the only people to go to both my weddings besides Rich and I.
That is
What's so
that is great.
crazy.
So was this the first of the two weddings?
Oh my gosh, our parents would have murdered us.
Okay,
No,
okay.
damage
Yeah.
was already done.
Okay, so you were okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, that would have been a disaster because
Yeah,
it was
well,
just
I
sort
mean,
of a whim.
Yeah.
Two funny things, Pam, is one is my wife and I decided we were going to get remarried out there. While we were out there, we actually found these, I don't know if you could see it, these wedding rings. There was a guy outside of Binion's Horseshoe. I don't know if that's coming through good. There was a guy outside of Binion's Horseshoe on Fremont Street, and he was just taking these rings and carving people's names in them. And we ended up making these little rings, which ended up meaning more to us than our original wedding rings. And these are the rings that we still wear and never take off, are these ones that just, we were wasted and some guy was carving names and like, "I want your name on me all the time," kind of thing. So one, but two, the other name that you mentioned was Brian Novi, who came up in a conversation just this weekend. What an amazing guy. What a great educator too.
He's one of my favorite people. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he came to my first wedding and then he was one of my best men for my second.
Is that right?
Yeah.
What
I
a,
know.
what a great guy.
I love Brian. He's an amazing guy. Everyone out there, if you see Brian Novi on the docket, go see him, because you're going to learn more about caries. You're going to learn more about the science, and the guy is just, he's phenomenal. He's funny. he's entertaining, and it's amazing how many people's lives he's touched that I get to meet. Just going to different. I was at a meeting last weekend in Florida, and same thing came up, and it's like, how do you know him? Kind of thing. So,
and before we leave,
Chad, how your dog's doing?
Yeah, sound
yeah,
good.
sorry, he's a little yapper. Before we leave tonight, I do want David to speak for a bit of time. I want him to share with us. He's got a new project going on with IgniteDDS. I understand. Is it some sort of like boot camp or something, David?
Oh, cool. Yeah, we have our business mastermind. Level 1 is launching in September. We ran it last fall. We run it every year. So we keep it super tight. We max out at 40 dentists who can join. And what I love about level 1 is kind of the conversation we had earlier. It's about ownership, and it's about how to decide if you should start up, you should acquire, and then based on your vision and what's best for you, like here's the process, and here's the process, and here are the teams of people that you need, not individual people per se, but categorically who you need. So I love it because it's just pure objective education. It's a lot of one-on-one time with some great people in the industry, including a guy named Jonathan Miller that some of you know, who's just one of the brightest minds. And I'm going to say that first practice space. So that's level 1. Level 2 will launch in November. But yeah, thanks for bringing that up. It's a really cool opportunity. And in the spirit of Ignite, we've made it like, to PPM's point, like super inexpensive. Like we wanted to remove money as an obstacle and a barrier. So every young dentist who's thinking about ownership, or maybe just in the throes of ownership, can get involved.
Hey, David, can I ask one quick follow-up question on that?
Sure.
How are you evolving the education, and what's your mindset as the landscape, I feel like, is changing so quickly for them between debt and practice opportunities and all that? I'm genuinely curious. How does it look the same as it did when I would have gone through that 15 years ago, when you would have gone through that 20 years ago? Like, what does that look like for them today based on, what we're generally seeing for workforce?
So my favorite form of education today is hybridized, where we flip the classroom and we do a lot of things that are digital, and you can, any day of the week, any time of the day, you can get that education. However, to Jeff's point earlier, then we need to get together in person, because there's a strong element to community, especially if it's clinically driven. So we mirror the business masterminds with clinical. Like we want people getting hands-on. It's really important. I don't know about the rest of you, but I've had such an easy time integrating when I actually did the work in addition to getting the knowledge, as opposed to sitting in a symposium and feeling like, wow, that's amazing. And then going back and try to take that energy and maybe it's just me, but confidence to walk into a treatment room and know I can do it. So for me, it's hybrid as the win.
Love that.
I love it too. And I love what both of you all are doing. I really, really appreciate both of you all. We all look up to you so much. Love what you're doing for our dental community. And David, you, especially with the younger dentists. Pam, we love what you're doing for anesthesia. I mean, you are keeping.
Can I tell you something really serious, but kind of a joke? When you were mentioning David's wife's name, I thought you were first saying you were doing a lecture on anesthesia, which I thought was very ironic. I really thought it was very ironic. I was like, how funny, because we were just talking about how hard it was and how you had not had a great day. But here you are at a conference talking anesthesia, but it was to Anastasia.
Anastasia, no, we are not exercising those who can't teach. No.
Right. That's Chad.
Not your girl for
That's
that.
Chad's mantra. The rest of us, it's a different mantra.
I was with you on that, JB.
See, Pam, you're not the only one that gets grief on this show. They give it to me every week.
That's okay.
Hey guys, how about an in-person reunion at SmileCon?
Yes.
Okay.
100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, we were going to do an interview within an interview about an interview.
For sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Seinfeld's
Yeah.
got nothing on this group.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Nothing on this group. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Larry David will be the moderator.
Yes.
yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Anyhow, we have come to the end of another great show. I want to definitely thank both of you for being here. And I think the take home message, at least, what I'd like to see is that there was something that came out on social media today that was asking if young dentists should take out another loan for continuing education. And at this stage of my career, my answer is almost yes. I mean, my answer really is kind of yes. I mean, you look at a lot of people that did that and have gotten very far in their career, but here's two opportunities that have been presented to younger dentists. The first in Las Vegas with the PPM conference for dental economics, on their practice growth summit. And then we've got a great boot camp that's very affordable through IgniteDDS. So there are ways to do this. And, although we do need to hone in on our clinical skills, we can't forget about the business aspects of dentistry and, what it's going to do for us in the long run. So there are affordable ways to obtain education. And I think, as always, education is a must. So to the younger dentists, don't get frustrated. Don't take out loans. Just look into opportunities because they're there. So
Chad, I know we're running late. I want to just jump on top of that and say, going back to what we talked about earlier, it is not just about paying for this conference and what you're going to get out of the conference. It's about the people that you're going to meet there.
absolutely.
So maybe you meet Pam and she becomes a mentor to you. Maybe you meet David and he becomes a mentor to you. It's about the people that you're going to meet that you will be able to bounce stuff against. That is the immeasurable part about live CE. And I just don't want that to get lost on younger dentists.
No, and I totally agree. And David, if you'd post a link to some of your upcoming offerings in the comments this week, and we'll definitely post a link to the Dental Economics Conference as well. So thanks, everybody.
Good night.
Have a good night.
Good night. All right.